This is the Body Fuel Performance and Lifestyle Nutrition Podcast. We're here to help you navigate all things nutrition, especially for sports performance, weight loss, and healthy eating. I'm your host, Andrew Dole, registered dietitian, certified executive chef, and USA triathlon coach. Here we go. Are you wondering what fuel you should be eating before a training session or during? Should you even be eating before or during a training session? What types of training necessitate the need to take on extra calories during exercise? In this episode, we cover fueling your training before and during sessions. Listen, I think you'll be surprised. For today's topic, in this episode, we're talking about what to eat before and during training sessions. It's an inspired topic that came from a forum thread that I follow and questions being asked about what should I eat before and during interval workouts, being worried about bonking or fainting or passing out or not being able to complete the workout as needed without having some type of nutritional assistance. It was built upon then by further questions from peers and clients from two different perspectives. I had a peer email me and say, I've eaten all of this great food, I fueled fantastically for this workout, but now I have no calories left. What did I do wrong and how do I adjust? And then I had a client, an athlete, say at the end of the week on Friday, hey Andrew, I made a decision based on such and such, meaning we had outlined a progression, a series of structures that said, if you do this, then do that. And if you don't do this, then you can do this as a substitute. And he used that progression and framework to make a decision and then go based upon how he felt, whether or not he continued it. It led me to this podcast because it's important for everyone to know the facts behind how to make these decisions. It's not just rules of thumb or elite interviews and manufacturer recommendations. So let's talk about this. Let's go back to the forum thread that I was reading and the plethora of comments and responses from nutritionists and in-the-know individuals using anecdotal evidence that were typical misapplications of correct information, meaning, yes, some of the data and the applications and rules of thumb were good, but in the context and scenario, they weren't. And that leads to issues. Sometimes it's body composition, sometimes it's fueling, and sometimes it's just pure misrepresentation of what's going on. At the root is trickle-down information, again, that comes from interviews that we read about what an elite will do or use. Look, their training is completely different than ours. Even as a wannabe competitive triathlete myself who podiums, I don't train at the level of an elite athlete. They eat, sleep, drink, and repeat nothing but their sport. They have different intensities, different volumes, different durations, and way different needs. For us, it's a little bit toned down. So doing what they do, expecting to have wonderful training outcomes, can sometimes end up with negative outcomes. The other side of this is manufacturer's recommendations. You can insert any waffle goo, block, shot, drink that you can come up with. Use my product during exercise and you will have way better performance. No, I'm just going to say no. That's not the truth. In certain cases, yes, it is necessary. A lot of the times, no, it's not. So we're going to get down to the bottom of when those are. On the bottom end of this spectrum are internet forums and threads, and look, you got to take it with a grain of salt. You know what you're getting when you're reading, and it's you have no idea what a credential is or what the backgrounds for these people. And some of them read scientific journals, and some of the information they have is right, but it's no practice knowledge, no clinical experience, no large body of practical experience to pull from, and so they take a set rule of thumb and they apply it to everything. And so let's talk about that. What's important to know? Rules of thumb and guidelines are a framework for decision making. They're not absolutes. It's like a tool. You don't go pull a hammer out and use it for every single job that you're going to do. And even if you were going to use a hammer for most of your jobs, you wouldn't use it the same way. You're not going to hammer as hard. You're not going to swing the same way. There's always nuances, which means the environment, the scenario, and the individual all come together and say, hey, it dictates how you would do something. And with nutrition, whether it's fueling before and after, it's the same exact way. Evidence-based practice is at the root of my practice as a sports dietitian, not a nutritionist. And so let's talk about the difference between that really quickly. What is a nutritionist? You are a nutritionist. Anyone is a nutritionist. Read a book, take a mail-in class, take a 3-month certification course for something, and you can be called a nutritionist. That really doesn't inspire me with confidence when the information coming from them, as far as credibility goes. A sports dietitian or a dietitian, let's say a dietitian in general, we have a 4-year degree specific to dietetics. We do 1,200 hours, which is 1 year of supervised practice. We take a licensure exam. We're board certified healthcare professionals who can take insurance. We work in clinical settings. So now take that and balance it against a nutritionist who read a book or has a certificate. And then you take the CSSD credential, the board certified specialist in sports dietetics, to have 2 years of experience working with athletes by itself. You have to be a dietitian first, then you have to have all of these years of experience, and then you have to take some really difficult exam to make sure that you know what you're talking about when applying nutrition strategy specifically to various sports. It's not just one sport, it's a lot of sports. My specialty happens to be endurance and multi-sports. Why I take on athletes for cycling and running and triathlon specifically. So there is a difference in credentials, and there's a difference between the quality of information that's coming from those sources. Let's explore the topic of pre-workout and peri-workout fueling a little bit more. The average individual has about 2,000 calories of fuel, muscle glycogen. Now, muscle glycogen is the storage form of glucose inside the muscle. It's glucose in the muscle. It's what the muscle uses for fuel. On average, 2,000 calories. That's about 2 to 2.5 hours of moderate intensity exercise. We're going pretty hard for kind of a long time. You have that stored in your muscle bellies. It's about 400 to 500 grams of carbohydrate. That's not a little amount. Grams of carbohydrate, there's 4 calories per gram, so you can see where that math comes from. So we don't start exercise empty. Let's just start from that perspective. Carbohydrate loading, we don't even need to bring carbohydrate loading into this particular discussion. Super compensated, or where you deplete your muscle stores with very low carbohydrates during the diet, high intensity, long duration workouts to deplete that gas tank. And then you refill or super compensate with a high percentage of carbohydrates the following days, can actually load more muscle glycogen in the muscle, so we can exceed that average of 2,000 calories. That would be something you would want to do for very, very long duration races. And let's think about long course, full Ironmans, and ultra distance. Outside of that, there's not a lot of benefit, and there is some negative consequences to carrying all of that extra water weight. First question that you want to ask yourself from a matrix, and I've pulled this up on the screen, you might have been looking at it while I was talking some of the background history, is how do we build a structure for making a decision on what to eat before and during workout? The first question you have to ask, because this is what matters, is this a breakthrough workout? And for those of you who are listening and not watching on YouTube, I do encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. A lot of what I do has some graphical content, lots of charts. I put a lot of time into making sure that it's a visible medium, but I will do my best to explain and walk you through it while you're not watching. The breakthrough workout is the key. You have to ask yourself, is this a breakthrough workout? Is this a quality workout? And what that means is, does this increase your VO2 max? Does it increase your speed? Is it going to break you through a plateau? Or is this workout some type of zone 1, zone 2, getting aerobic base in, maybe filling in some time gaps to make sure you get enough time on your feet? They are very different workouts. If the answer to your breakthrough workout is no, and this is a 90-minute or less workout, you don't need any fuel. We're talking zone 1, zone 2, and here is why. You have all of that muscle glycogen left or stored in your muscles. Then, based upon the intensity of your workout, there is going to be this shift of how much fat and how much carbohydrate you use. The lower your intensity, the more fat you use, the higher your intensity, the lower the fat, the higher the carbohydrates. So a zone 1, zone 2 workout is still using a mixture of fat and carbohydrates, but it's going to use less carbohydrate. You really don't need to fuel for 90 minutes or less of a zone 1, zone 2. No, this isn't a breakthrough workout, but it happens to be 2 hours or more. That's an interesting question. At 2 hours or more, we're starting to reach the capacity of our storage. We said it has about 2 to 2.5 hours of moderate intensity. I would say 2 hours is about the 2 hours of zone 1, zone 2, you could do without much fuel. Some electrolytes, some water, some good hydration, some sodium would be fantastic, but you don't need anything. If you can eat before, that would be fantastic. Let's talk about a breakthrough workout. Is this one? And the answer is yes. Well, then we look at the question, can you eat before? That would be ideal. If the answer is yes, you can eat before. If you eat 3 or 4 hours before a workout, the content of that meal is less important. It can be higher in fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. If you're going to eat within 1 to 2 hours of this workout, depending on how your GI tolerates food, there are some best practices. And I'm going to start with this best practices because it's going to be used for the rest of the diagram. So 1 to 2 hours before a workout, if you can eat before, it's best to easy to digest foods. And that means low fat, low fiber, low protein. We're talking white foods, all the stuff that's supposed to be bad for you, white potatoes, white breads, white rice, English muffins, jams and jellies, chocolate milk, or liquid type fuels would be fantastic. And then for your individual size, sport, and time of the year, you have the number of grams of carbohydrate per kilogram that's appropriate for you. That comes from honestly working with a professional to say, this is who you are, these are your goals, this is what I think. Certain types of foods that meet that easy to digest would be bananas, juice, white toast, jelly, chocolate milk, cream of rice, cream of wheat. I like Rice Krispies, Rice Chex, anything that's easy to digest. We don't need a lot of protein. It sits in your gut. We don't need a lot of fat. It slows digestion. We don't want a lot of fiber. It slows digestion and is hard to break down. We're looking for the simple foods 1 to 2 hours before a workout if it's a breakthrough workout. So we've already decided that this is a breakthrough workout. We may be able to eat before. If that's the case, then 3 to 4 hours before, it doesn't matter. Eat a well-balanced breakfast, have what you like. If it's 1 to 2 hours before, follow the best practices of eating easy to digest foods. Now, let's go back to this is a breakthrough workout. No, I can't eat before. Okay, now we have to start thinking through a checklist, if this, then that. If it's 45 minutes or less of intensity minutes and or workout in general, now we're talking about a breakthrough workout here. So there are 2 different types of breakthrough workouts. A lot of them are intervals. Sometimes we have the really long 4, 5, and 6 hour breakthrough workouts that are meant to produce adaptations that we just simply can't get any other way. That's not really the kind of breakthrough workout I'm talking here. Those are very rare. They fall on the 2 hours or more rule where you need to fuel. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. Well, let's get back to that. So, no, you can't eat before this breakout workout. It's 45 minutes or less. Just going to flat out tell you don't need any fuel. Have some caffeine. Have some green tea. Have a cup of coffee. You don't need anything. 45 minutes of intensity minutes does not require you to eat. And it's probably unlikely that the workout's going to be 45 minutes of consistent, sustained, high-intensity minutes. It most likely will be intervals broken up with rest periods. So take that into consideration. At 60 to 75 minutes, you don't need fuel, and that's in quotes. Caffeine will certainly help, and carbohydrate in the mouth actually reduces the perceived effort and can improve performance. That means just swishing carbohydrate solution can make a difference. So, in this case, you could suck on a Jolly Rancher, have a piece of Christmas candy, or maybe put a 1 single scoop of your hydration formula, your sports drink, in your bottle, have it very diluted, and get just enough carbohydrate to get you through. If you're looking at 90 minutes to 2.5 hours, now we're starting to get really long-winded. We're reducing the stores of glycogen we have, tapping out the capacity of storage we need, and we're going to start looking for outside sources of fuel to help mitigate that or keep us going. Fueling for 90 to 2.5 hours is about 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. That is the goal. It's a general rule of thumb. It's good to apply to this time frame of workout. And depending on how your GI tolerates the sugar, this is trainable. You may start on the low end, you may build up. You may be looking for body composition changes where you don't want a lot of sugar. You may err on the side of lower than higher. It may be extremely hot outside and you need more water than you do sugar and fuel, and you're going to drink a lot of liquid. Then you would err on the side of lower concentrate of carbohydrates so that you can get it in the amount of volume you're drinking because it's increased on a hot day. At 2.5 hours plus, there is no doubt that you need fuel. It should start within the first 30 minutes and it should continue at about 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour. This is as tolerated by the individual's GI system, and it is trainable. Just like your ability to run, swim, and bike, your VO2 max and your muscular endurance, your GI system is a trainable part of your success and performance. As a sports dietitian, it's one of the primary things that I work with my clients on is to get their GI system and their habits ready to take on the amount of fuel and food that they need to complete these long duration events. Now, at 60 to 75 minutes and 90 to 2.5 hours, the type of carbohydrate is not particularly, it doesn't need to be very specific, right? It doesn't have to be a glucose-fructose mixture. We just need to get some fuel in. Hell, at 60 to 75 minutes, you didn't really need anything at all. At 2.5 hours and above, we really do want dual pathway fueling. The body utilizes glucose and fructose on two different pathways, and so we can utilize more sugar when we've got essentially two lanes of the highway open instead of trying to force both down one. You could figure that's a pretty good analogy. For sessions lasting 60 to 90 minutes, the total number of high intensity minutes matters. So like in a 60-minute workout, if you're only doing 30 minutes of interval work, did you really need to fuel? Does that fall into the 45 minutes or less of intensity minutes? On the flip side of that, if you're going to do a 90-minute session or a 2-hour session with 60 minutes of high-intensity minutes, then yeah, man, we should probably start looking at fueling that 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates because we've got a lot of work being done in a long period of time, and we only have, like I said, that limited amount of storage capacity. While 2,000 calories is 2 to 2.5 hours, and it's kind of a lot, we do need to sort of mitigate that. So in summary, with should you eat before and during your workout, clearly it depends. There's a lot of if this, then that going on. Think about what your goals are. If you're overweight and you're trying to lose fat mass through your workouts, a 45-minute to 60-minute workout with some intervals does not require you to have a Coca-Cola, a Lara bar, or a Cliff bar. Sorry. Like, we're just putting back most of the calories that you've burned, and you didn't even begin to touch the 2,000 calories worth of glycogen in your body. Not to mention the rest periods of that workout was using fat mass anyway. If you were in a situation where, let's say, you're a lean athlete and you're trying to go from 15 to 10% body fat and you're eating low carbohydrates to do so, you're already at somewhat of a calorie deficient state, you're very lean, you need to preserve lean body mass, then yeah, fueling some of these workouts when your glycogen stores could be depleted or less than optimal might be wise. And again, so it depends. It's scenario, it's individual based. Not rules of thumb, can't be applied to everyone all of the time. I hope this topic has helped you understand how to make decisions on when and if you should eat before and during your workouts. You may have been taking on too many calories and it's been disrupting or derailing your body composition and fat mass losses. Or perhaps you were taking on too few and you weren't getting everything out of your breakthrough workouts that you needed to. pay a lot for coaching, you should at least be able to get all that you need to out of the workouts and your races. Don't go into those under-fueled. I appreciate you listening and watching. If you like this video cast, please refer a friend and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I also encourage you to join our closed Facebook group, Body Fuel Multisport, on Facebook, where you can continue this conversation. Thank you again. My name is Andrew with Body Fuel, and as always, the information provided here is just opinion for education purposes and not meant to be taken as medical advice.